Hey, so what's up guys? This is the part 2 of how to make a picture frame with these tutorials. Like I said, just want to make some simple stuff, and this I went ahead and texture mapped my picture frame, and it kind of looks like a mirror, um, but this is what I wanted to achieve with you guys. So learn how to do simple texture mapping. The only problem with this one is I went ahead and imported it into Unreal 4, and you'll run into this a lot with texture maps when you have two surfaces that should look different. For example, this wood should look a lot different than this mirror top glass we have here. And if you want to see what it looks like, um, well, it looks like I'm gonna have to open GIMP real quick. The texture map itself, actually I could just pull up the UVs here. This is actually what it looks like. You have the back right here in this square, or rectangle I should say. These are the sides. So you have actually two sides right here. But these are the trims on the, I want to say on the back. Where are they at? Or on the sides actually. So it's the sides. And then you have the way we extruded it. It helped a lot. You have the mirror part right here, and then you have the inside border trims right on these edges here. So as you can see, like I said in the last video, it's pretty much taking a 3D model and laying it out flat to where you can actually map the textures onto it, and then once you combine them and put them back on the mesh, it knows exactly where to put the textures that you have. And as we go through this, I'll tell you some warnings and some cautions, because you don't want to run into stretching your texture. If let's say this was actually like a 256 size picture, and you stretched it out, and you had these lines going, and once if you have any stretching in here, it's going to definitely show in here. So you want to be careful with that. But of course yours probably doesn't look like this. It probably should look like, well, it should probably look something like that. So this is what we left off with. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Now if you don't have GIMP, go ahead, there's a link in the description, you can go ahead and download it. And then just come back and I'll walk you through how to texture map through GIMP, and even do a normal map for sorry about that. Alright, so first let's go ahead and do object mode. Go ahead and select your picture frame, and then don't do this step because I have to do it because I already have UVs on it. So right now we have nothing. So now you can start following me. You go to create UVs, and for this one we're just going to do an automatic map. What these different maps are: planar mapping is a flat surface, something that looks straight up to the top. So anything looking up that way or straight down this way. The cylindrical mapping is anything cylindrical or going down the side of an object. You can get away with planar mapping for the sides, but it doesn't do what it's, I mean, because it's not looking for anything vertical, it's looking for more things flat. But different things, can come out different ways. But for this one, we're just going to do automatic mapping, and spherical mapping is obviously that it deals with a circle-ish mesh. So automatic map, go ahead and check that. So then you'll see all these different squares on the sides, and your mesh is orange, I guess is what that color is. So now go to edit UVs, go to UV texture editor, and now you can see the exact same thing that mine look like. We have the outside top border, we have the inside border that touches the picture area. We have this huge area where you could put glass or a poster or any kind of texture. You could go into GIMP and just write like, I don't know, like stay out. Go ahead and texture this thing and then use like the spray tool and just, write something on there. This is the back. And like I said in the last video, unless you plan on having this picture like upside down or like sitting sideways in a corner or something, like sitting on the ground, you could probably get rid of this. But for the sake of keeping it simple, we're going to keep it. And of course, these are the sides, as you can see right there. It highlighted them. It's supposed to do this one too, but I didn't select it. It's down here. But okay, so in your UV texture editor, we're going to go ahead. If you want to organize this in any way, I'm not going to, but you hold right mouse button, go to UVs, go ahead and select whichever one you want to move around, and you'll see these little dots selected, and just go to Move UV Shell Tool. It's right here. I'm going to go ahead and click that, and that way the whole thing moves. And the trick is you want to have your whole UV map inside of this square. For the sake of organizing, you can move stuff out here. You can, just kind of move things around to better suit what you need them for. If you wanted to put like all these corners like on the outside, like if you wanted one corner here and let's see, one corner here, just to kind of, well, I shouldn't have done that actually. This would be like over here, and then rotate. You don't have to do this, I'm just showing you what you could do if you really wanted to make it a lot more like a picture frame. We're going to rotate this one. And so there's your outside borders. Then you could put, your back one right here. The UVs can't touch, by the way. That's why it jumped back up there. If they touch each other, it's just going to go back to the... You don't want an overlapping UV, and what that is two or more of these shapes over one another, because then there's two things mapped to the same area. So I'm going to do Z over and over until I get back to the way it was before. There we go. Now I'm back to normal. And so what we're going to do now is go back into your perspective view, and you're going to go to object mode. You're going to select it, and then go up to polygons, and UV snapshot. And this is where it'll actually take a snapshot or a picture of your UV layout, and it'll make the entire grid area here black. So all you have is the lines showing what shapes you have and where they are, and that way when you go into something like GIMP or Photoshop, you know exactly where your outlines are and what they look like. And this one's very easy, but there's some like character models and stuff that will be very hard to manage unless you try and replicate what the 3D model looks like on a 2D plane. Otherwise, or in other words, having like a complete arm right here and a complete arm here, and the head unfolded from the nose, so it looks like there's actually a face, I don't know, cut in half, laid down flat on the ground right here. And it can get very, very intricate, and the space is, as you can see, very limited. So keep that in mind. This, again, is just for beginners. This is a very easy thing to texture, and it's actually very fun. I found that out through mine. So let's go ahead and jump over here and go ahead and name this thing. If you got an error, or if you do get an error, it's because you don't have your picture or object mode selected. So if you go ahead and name it, I don't know, picture frame map, and if you went and hit OK, it would pop up and say nothing selected. So you have to go over here, make sure this is selected. Actually, I'll just go ahead and show you. I'll show you what will happen. I don't know if I could. Yeah, here we go. UV snapshot. Go ahead and hit OK, and oh. You must select a valid object, select a polygon, subdivision surface, or NURB surface with UVs. So that's the error you'll get. So go ahead and name this. I recommend like picture frame UV or map, something like that. And I'm gonna. This is I think default 512. Go ahead and do 1024. That's just it's a bigger. It's a more flexible way to work in this thing. I choose to do it. You don't have to. You can do 512 if you want. Image format, I do JPEG. And once you have those things done, just go ahead and hit OK. And we'll go ahead and go into our local. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Go into your documents. Go to Maya, projects, default, images, and picture frame map is right here. So there it is. Now you can either keep this open and open GIMP, or you can just go to the same file location, or you can move this to your desktop and get it, wherever. So we're going to create a new thing in GIMP, a new project or a new image. I'm going to do 1024, or if you did 512, go ahead and map it to 512 and hit OK. Okay. So first off, what we want to do is open as layers, and then go and grab that UV map wherever it is. Mine was in Documents, Maya, Projects, Default, Images, Picture Frame Map. So now we have that as a place to work in. Now I'm going to do the same exact pictures I did for the other one, and you can go to the link in the description if you want to get the same materials. I have to remember where I put them. Texture 2D. I got the cherry wood. So that's one of them I need to open. So anything that you need to open within the same project. If you need to load another file, go to File, Open as Layers, and then go and find your picture that you want to bring in. I keep all my stuff in the same folder. Let's see. Let's say cherry wood texture. So there's one. And then the other one I used was, I remember it was down at the bottom, texture painting test. So now we have these. Alright, so what we're going to do first is go ahead and go to this texture painting one, or whatever you're going to use for your glass or your poster. Just go ahead and click this eyeball so it hides it, so we don't have to look at that one. So first what we're going to do is scale this to, you want to keep those powers of 2 since your picture is a power of 2. So I'm going to do 512, and let's see, yeah, this will work for us. Actually, you know what? We're going to go to undo move, undo scale layer. And actually the better way to do this, I think, is to go ahead and click on the wood or whatever the outline is going to be. Go ahead and move this opacity down just so you can see the outline of your UV map, so you know exactly what you're scaling to. And I'm going to go into 100% on the zoom. And I'm going to click this rectangle select tool. And what this does is to avoid any crooked lines or anything, this is an excellent tool for things like this. So you click and hold, and you just drag this down. And what I'm going to do actually is all the way on the outside of this picture frame, right on the line. You don't want anything overlapping the other UVs, and you don't want to go too far inside. And it looks like I still have a line on the outside, so I need to redo that. So I'm going to do it again. You want to go just over your UV line, but you don't want to go too far and go into the other one. We'll do about there. And once you have this figured out, if you're still trying to figure it out, go ahead and pause this, and we're going to move on to the next step here. So now that you have this rectangle selected for the frame, you're going to go to select, invert, select feather, and do 5, and then cut. Now check that out. Okay, Control Z, very important part. So hit Control Z and go back to right before you cut. Go ahead and right click on this cherry wood texture or whatever you're using for this part and do add alpha channel. And now you can cut again. That's a very important step that even I still mess up on. So now you can go back, kind of zoom out, and you can see, even bringing your opacity up, now we have a nice rectangle for the frame here. And you're probably wondering, well, what about the mirror? There's two things to notice in this. When I very first started this video, I mentioned that in my model the mirror had the same the same texturing or materializing as my wood did, and that's because I put them both in the same picture. Now what you can do is you can skip doing the mirror and just finish your frame outline and make that its own texture map, and then come back and put the mirror over this and get rid of all the wood. So really you would just be doing the mirror part. You would just be doing this inside square right here, and you would use the same tool. You can use the rectangle tool to go ahead and scale and drag, and then cut out everything else and just only do the mirror. That way when you render it in something like Unreal, you'll have the ability to edit this wood and make it look more like a wood material, and then add in this mirror or glass or poster to look a lot different. That way when the specularity comes in and it hits the wood, it doesn't all look the exact same. Mine wound up looking more like a concrete mirror with, the wood. I mean, it looked good, but obviously they all had the same characteristics. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and insert this just to show you how to kind of work around a process like this. So go ahead and with your glass or poster or whatever you're deciding to do for this part, go ahead and select that, and it doesn't have to be anywhere perfect on the X and Y axis, but on the Z, obviously there's no Z axis in a 2D thing like this, but you know what I mean. The up and down, I guess the Y axis, you just want to cover that inside edge, and This one actually fits pretty perfect already. I don't have to move it. So as you can see, we have this. We want to make the opacity down and hide your wood. So now what we can do is use the same tool, this rectangle square tool, zoom in a little bit, and then click on these edges. Same principle as before. Try and get as overlapped as you can on the lines on the inside. Don't overlap your wood right here. Remember, it's this very inside line that you want to cover. So what we're going to do is select, invert again, and we're not going to feather this time. We're just going to strictly cut it because we don't want it. We don't want that soft edge. We want it pretty straightforward. So we're just going to cut. Oh, you know what? Control Z. Go back to before you cut it and add alpha channel. Now cut it. So now we have a pretty cool looking mirror. I know it looks weird. Go to select real quick and go to none. That way nothing is selected. And there's the front of our poster or mirror or picture or whatever you're doing. Looks pretty cool. It might look kind of weird, but I assure you this is how this kind of stuff is done. So what we're going to do now, actually, instead of bringing in a new picture and trying to scale it to a power of 2 and then multiply it or whatever, we're just going to simply duplicate this layer that we use for the wood front, and we're just going to bring it to the back. So go ahead and right click on your frame, duplicate layer, and then you can come over here and whoops, I need to select it first. So go ahead and select your duplicate, and I don't know why it is doing this. We're just going to hide that for now. And there we go. Now, as you can see, there's a small gap in between these, and that's what you want. You don't want anything overlapping. It looks pretty good. And for these, you can do one of two things. You can try and duplicate this layer again and do the rectangle tool for these small areas, or what I'm going to actually do to watch the length of this video, I'm going to duplicate this layer that we just moved, and I'm just going to move it over here. I should have probably moved those UVs. Yeah, you can see this down here. There you can see the lines of the UVs, and that will show a big black mark on whichever part of that it is when we map this thing to it. So I may have to scale this by like a few pixels, which I think I'm gonna do. It's probably not gonna hurt anything to scale it just a tad bit. So we're going to select this one on the very end. I'm gonna select it over here, and we're going to go to this tool right here. It looks like a small square with an arrow, and it has this big square attached to it. Let's go ahead and click that and click on this layer. And all we're going to do, if I can actually get to see it, there's no, okay. We're just going to move it up just over this line right here. And again, it's probably not going to hurt too much because it's only a few, I mean, it's only 10 pixels, so it shouldn't bother anything too bad. And there you go. We're going to unhide our mirror. So here is our texture map. Like I said, if you want to individually do those corners, you can. I just did that because this video is probably going to be a bit too long because I go off on tangents far too often. So go ahead and delete, actually no, don't. Delete your picture frame map. Now you should have something that looks like this. If you don't, then there's an alpha channel that you should have toggled on. And don't worry about it, you can just rewind this and make sure after we do the rectangle tool or before, just alpha channel everything you bring in. I forget it all the time. So I'm gonna just real quick, I'm gonna hide all my UV channels. And so right now we have this white background. And I'm gonna click on this black rectangle, and I have the fill tool selected, and I'm just gonna make a black background. And then bring these back. So now what we don't want is we don't want the lines from the UV channel. Once you get everything placed, you want to get rid of that UV channel because you're going to have the lines from the UV map on your actual model itself, and you don't want that. So let's go ahead and export. Just should have walked you through that. Just go to File, Export. And since Maya and Unreal both take TGAs, I'm just going to make this a .tga file. And I'm going to name it frame demo, and I'm just going to throw it on my desktop. And it'll ask you about compression. Just go ahead and hit export. And here we go. Off back into Maya. Go ahead and pause if you need to catch up. That's fine. Alright, so we're going to go to object mode, assign new material by holding right mouse button. First, actually, let me do this real quick. You don't have to follow this. I'm just going to get rid of this one so there's no confusion and I'm doing everything you're doing. So we're going to go assign new material. You can select blend or Lambert. I'm just going to do Lambert because it's the most drab of all of those. So once you have your material selected, you want to go to color and hit this black and white checkered box. Go to file and then go to this folder that pops up. And this is where we're going to put in the map that we just made. So forget what I named it. Frame demo.tga, that's what I named it. So we're going to go to open, and looky there. And the good thing about Unreal 4 I've noticed is before in Unreal Engine 3, even if you had something texture mapped, it would just come through as like a weird material. I don't know, for me it did. Maybe not for everybody. It would come in as like just like a pastel colored material, and then I'd have to retexture map it, or just apply the texture to that drab material. But Unreal 4, if you just go ahead and import this into it, it already has everything attached to it, which is very, very cool. And if you actually want to see it in Unreal, this is exactly the materials I've used for this that will be in this little quick show off, I guess, whatever. At least I'm pretty sure I saved it. I did. So I have two of them open. So here's what it looks like inside UDK or Unreal 4 or whatever. And remember, I told you it all looks the same. The wood looks the same as the mirror type thing, and that's not what I want. So what I recommend doing, now that you know how to kind of texture map and all that, I would remove this and apply this the same way we did with this, and then start a new one. Actually, what you could do is actually just hide these and just do this. Now it's its own material, and you can import this as a new layer for this. And that way you have one material for the glass, one material for the wood. And then when you put it in something like Unreal, it doesn't look like a picture of concrete like mine does. But, you know, it's all about trial and error, figuring out what works, what doesn't. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video though, and now you kind of have a small understanding of texture mapping, and we'll see you on